first and foremost, I definitely want to say thank you. One, for your content. Two, for this FaceTime. And just really for everything you do. You really do get me started off in the right direction in the morning. But
nice.
I guess, so to just get into it, I definitely want to ask you about, I guess, the non-traditional sports athletes, such as lacrosse players and things of that nature. I'm actually an ex-college lacrosse athlete. I have a few friends who play in the MLL and other friends who are in the PGA, but obviously that's more traditional. I feel like I can reach out to the MLL guys, prove myself a little bit. If I could bring value to them, I feel like that would be something I could then go to the PGA guys and things of that nature. So with that in mind, I was just curious, what do you think companies would be looking for in the non-traditional athletes and sponsorships and endorsements?
Right. So, there's several different levels. So that's a great question. And, Rabel's a friend of mine. He's been on my podcast as well.
I noticed that, yes.
Yeah. And
he was, when I was playing lacrosse, he was
the superstar.
8 years now.
Wow.
Maybe even more.
So let's break this down. And number one, there's two types of endorsement advertising marketing that we do for athletes, regardless of whether they're traditional stick and ball athletes or non-traditional athletes. So, and those are one, traditional endorsements, and then two, what I call more of a digital endorsement. Okay? And so the way that I believe things are happening is it's called the stage theory. And if you look at any personality that you have, even a Dave Meltzer or Gary Vee, who, are not traditional or not traditional athletes. We're just business people.
No, I understand.
We're has-beens or wannabes, wannabe owners. That's what Gary and I are. We're wannabe owners. Exactly. So what you need to do is establish some sort of traditional credibility with the non-traditional athlete, okay? And then you have to build a frequency or a brand digitally. And so it doesn't matter really to me what the athlete does or how good the athlete is. If you're capable of getting credibility in the traditional space and able to build, and you can start either place, right? You can build, right? I started in the traditional side and then built this digital side where I know, I have a close family friend that does that Musically stuff, and Ava and Everly, and they got they make 7 figures a year, and they're like YouTube sensations, and who knows what they're really doing. So what I try to do is stick and teach as you represent these guys. Let's find your frequency. So whether it's traditional, local things that you're doing, but you're capturing everything, elevating the awareness, the profile, and the brand, and then attracting an audience. So the reason I attracted you, for example, Ray, is you're at my frequency, right? You saw one thing of mine and you're like, hey, that kind of makes me feel good, or it motivates me, or it inspires me, it resonates with me. I'll go look at other stuff. And then you watched other stuff and said, hey, this guy's at my frequency. And when you realize the ball game now is the combination of traditional credibility with digital monetization, and finding the frequency and the brand and the awareness and the profile, and understanding that it's actually easier to do today with non-traditional sports than ever before, because there's 3.2 billion people now that you can reach. So if you're a lacrosse player even 10 years ago, right? My dad played lacrosse at Ohio State. Played against Jim Brown. Played against Jim Brown. Jim Brown's a friend of mine. His jersey's signed up in my conference room. Yeah, he's awesome. And, to me, still today, I told Rabel, you're just lucky Jim Brown didn't play when you played, because they wouldn't even know your name. He's so amazing. Anyways, and very few athletes can I say, hey, if you played today, you'd still be better than everyone. I truly believe if Jim Brown played lacrosse today, he'd still be more dominant than any player ever.
Those athletes, I gotta say, sometimes even though technology, as we both agree, has gone leaps and bounds, it seems as though the athletes from back in the day, like Jackie Robinson and Jim Brown, apparently baseball was Jackie Robinson's 4th best sport or something along those lines. That's actually me being a little cynical at the time. It's hard for me to believe, really. Yeah,
it's hard for me to believe. Warren Moon told me, my business partner, that baseball was his best sport, and I kicked him in the shin and said, come on, man. You're the world's greatest quarterback. I don't believe it. No, I don't think so. He doesn't believe it. Anyway, so back to the point, right? So in the past, 10 years ago, or when Jim Brown played, even if Jim Brown was that good, how could we in the past, with the frequency that Jim Brown had, the best lacrosse player in the world, a brandable athlete, how could we find all the lacrosse players that were playing? You can put them in the newspaper, or you put them in a magazine. There was no way. Well, today, what's awesome is that because 3.2 million people are on the, 3.2 billion people are on the internet, that, however many millions are at the frequency of understanding and appreciate the best lacrosse players, you now can monetize that digitally.
That actually leads me into another point that you brought up while you were talking. I'm a little hesitant sometimes to begin to build a brand of my own before I really establish. I don't know who. Sometimes I think I don't know really who I am yet. I'm only 24 years old. Haven't really jumped into the workforce aside from I do work right now for the governor, and I work at a bar at night at times. But I haven't really,
Which governor do you work for?
Governor Rick Scott. So.
Oh, right on. Hey,
Florida Pin.
Yeah, when I'm in Florida, I'd love to have him on my podcast or come in and interview him.
Listen, you contact me, and I'm pretty sure I can make that happen.
Right on.
I'm not going to make any guarantees.
Yeah, no.
That's
I teach people you got to ask and attract, and that's my ask for the day.
Well, it's fair. You can say that much.
Cool.
But so with that being said, the reason I haven't jumped right into building a brand around who I am, because I really do feel like there's a lot of people out there like me, just there are as everyone else. There's a lot of people like anyone. But my thing is, I don't want to turn other people off. But it seems as though you see it as, who cares about who's turned off? Just find your few million, find your few thousand, and just build it.
Oh, I believe that. I love to find people that don't agree with me. I think it's just as important in my frequency to turn people off. And my favorite thing to do is that people will call and a lot of people, they have a certain lens that they look at life through, right? Because when we think about things, we project what we're thinking. And a lot of times, there's haters, trollers, skeptics out there. And my favorite thing to do is to attract people that aren't at my frequency and feel a need to try to express their opinion that may be different than mine. And I really change and pride myself in changing the way that they look at things by saying, hey, look, I really appreciate what you're saying, and then try to transition, what you're saying into either aligning with me or holding their position. Either way, there's an old, I don't know how you're younger, but my favorite,
72.
So my favorite Howard Stern saying, which applies, and what is why he's so successful, when he was on radio, TV, movies, and now digitally with XM, the reason he is he realized one thing, the best line you can think of, why is Howard Stern so popular? Because they asked the people who love Howard Stern, meaning the people at his frequency, why do you listen to Howard Stern? And they said, I can't wait to hear what he has to say next. Really? Then there's twice as many people that listen to Howard Stern who don't like Howard Stern. And they asked those people, why do you listen to Howard Stern if you don't like Howard Stern, if you're not at his frequency? And they said, because I can't wait to hear what he has to say next. Right? So the audience, you find your frequency, and this in politics. It's not the people that support your governor that really make your governor. It's the haters, man. It's the energy that they bring him that now take all the people who love him and they have to defend him. And nothing better in Instagram that I love, or on Twitter, when someone says something outrageous about me and they're like, no, you're an idiot. You didn't really listen to what he's saying. He's not saying that.
Yeah, your own defenders.
Yeah. So, energy works in a variety of ways. So you gotta find all the successful people, man. Find your frequency, be yourself. You would rather have people hate you for who you are than love you for who you're not, right?
Yeah, no, and that goes deep, honestly. It really does. It's something that I think about a lot. Not that I ponder on it all the time, but it is one of those things that kind of held me back, because I obviously understand the digital landscape, not to the extent that you or other professionals do, but I get it. I understand the plumbing of it and everything like that, but I haven't completely made a deep dive because I was going to wait until I established myself. But sometimes I think I'm waiting for no reason.
Don't wait.
It seems as though.
Don't wait. And let me tell you this. Nobody knows the digital landscape. Let me tell you what I do know, and Gary knows about the digital landscape, is that It's a trial and error landscape. It's pre-chasm. It hasn't hit chasm. So start trying it. See what resonates. When it resonates in the frequency, you keep on going with what works and keep crawling before you walk, before you run. Keep investing in what's working. And you're 24 years old. By the time you're 34 years old and I'm 60, I'll be Instagramming you going, hey man, Ray, I need some help. You get this stuff. I'm getting old, man. I don't understand this whole 3D virtual projection thing. Can you help me figure out how to monetize it?
Augmented reality, we know that.
Yeah, exactly. So
can we jump into really quickly? I heard you mention your a little bit of your real estate experience and things like that. And I'm a hustler too. I wake up and when I first started working, I was a Cutco salesman, door to door with Cutco knives. And then I've worked in law firms. I worked for the government. I'm a TA. I bartend, like I said, and I also work for Governor Rick Scott from 9 to 5. So with that all in mind, what I've realized what I love most is dealing with people and making deals, negotiating, figuring people out, figuring out what they want. And I realized going through my JD MBA program that I'm really not extremely legally inclined. It's not my favorite thing to do, but I absolutely love. I know, and I always heard your story about I went and took the bar to please my parents, this and that. I just know I paid for everything, so I'm like, I should probably just take the bar, just to put that check in the box. And so with that being said, I realized that deal making, I saw all the skills in sports and all that in real estate. If you can go, and I want to know how you feel about that, whether or not there's transitive qualities in working in real estate and putting together deals as opposed to putting together sponsorships and endorsements for athletes. Because quick story, I had to apply to your internship twice because I messed up the form when I was emailing it. So I put on my internship form and said pick 3 things you want to do. It was business development, because that's all I need to learn. And I know I heard you speak about I can bring sponsorships anywhere. I don't ever have to worry about losing a job. That's what I want to be able to do. So I was hoping I could learn how to do that through real estate, and I just wanted to hear if you think that as well.
Yeah, so let me just tell you what you learn. It doesn't matter what you're selling, real estate, sponsorships. The reason I use sponsorships because it's such a big part of being involved with sports. And people, if you love what you do, you don't work a day in your life. Selling sponsorships the easiest way to work in sports and be involved in all the cool parts about sports, from the athletes to the events to the money side of it, is great. It doesn't matter, real estate, sponsorship. What made me successful in all of them is that I know this 5 to Thrive system. 1, I know how to stimulate interest. 2, I know how to transition that interest. 3, I know how to share a vision. 4, and most importantly, that's only 20% of the time. When someone tells me, yeah, man, I'm in verbally, right? Then you got to get to 4, which is managing and developing the vision, which is 80% of it. And if you can manage and develop the vision consistently, persistently in the pursuit of the highest truth of that management and development of the vision, you will thrive, meaning deals will come to you. You go from the offensive of trying to get deals to the defensive of qualifying deals because you have so many. And real estate, to me, is a great platform to learn, is a great platform to practice, is a great platform to make money because it utilizes the 5 to Thrive, just like sponsorship sales. It also will give you some stimulation from
cash flow.
Yeah, and also the legal side. Like, you got negotiations, you got analytics, you got writing, you got contracts, you got closings. There's some good legal stuff in there.
I didn't mean to cut you off.
Yeah, go ahead.
I was just going to say, the way I was looking at it was going into more asset management scenario position. So I'm actually doing the analytics as well as the negotiating. So it was, and rather than just doing the closings and things of that nature, I also have. It's funny, as I've worked, I mentioned to you, I had a deal ongoing right now. It was funny, the second the word got out that I was able to negotiate like a seller financing on my first deal and things of that nature, I had multiple heads of investor groups, like 200, 300 person investor groups contact me and ask me if they can get in on the deal and ask me if they could do this or that. And it's of course, I'm a New Yorker, so I kind of back up a little bit. I'm like, who is this guy? But at the same time, it really was amazing to see how, like you say, you attract the frequency that other people are at, and if they're at your frequency, they're going to come to you. So I've noticed that, as well as just working hard enough, pounding away at the pavement. It just people notice.
Yeah, no doubt. Now, you said you applied to our intern program?
I did.
Right.
And,
When did you want to intern here?
So the thing is, I have no problem postponing the bar. I would love to do it right after I graduate. I graduate May 6th. If I could, I'd skip graduation if my dad wasn't so proud of me.
No. You can still intern and you can still study for the bar. I'd be happy. Let's set up an interview with Colleen and let's work something out where you can do everything. Remember, the universe has enough of everything for everyone. We don't have to. It's not one or another. It's not enough or just enough. It's more than enough. And your track record is more than enough, right? And so I'd be very interested in mentoring you over the summer, having you be an intern, possibly working towards a position here or allowing me to place you somewhere else. But I don't want you to miss graduation. I don't want you to not study for the bar. And we've done this a ton, so you're not lazy. Anyway, last question, man. We got a couple minutes left.
Yeah. So let me say this. Let me see my favorite question I had for you. So I believe that that perspective and relativity at the same time. I hear you always ripe on perspective, or not ripe, but
talk.
Pound on perspective. I want to ask you about relativity. How do you feel about relativity and whether or not my rich is your rich or your happy is my happy? Because I have this equation that I always say: perspective plus relativity equals contentment, and that's kind of what I live by. And it's funny. I always hear it part and parcel in different people that I look up to, and I'm just curious, what's your opinion on relativity?
Yeah, you could not have asked me a better question. Most people, they don't ask me about relativity, and I have a very strong opinion and belief about what you just said, and I agree with that. Perspective plus relativity equals contentment. And for me, contentment equals the enjoyment of the persistent, consistent pursuit of my potential. If you believe that you manifest or everything that you project is yours, right? That everything around me is just my perception, then there's nothing but relativity to determine the value of my perception. Meaning, everything is relative to me because everything is one. That's the definition of oneness. Some would call it God. But the biggest challenge that I had with relativity beyond time, which was a little bit confusing, which I study still today, understanding, how time is relative, that, I could give you a lecture and you could tell me that was the shortest hour of your life, or you could tell me it was the longest hour of your life.
This is the fastest 10 minutes I've ever experienced.
Okay, cool. So then I'm hitting the relativity. But think about this, that everything that we experience, time, space, matter, all of it's relative to our perception, as you had stated, which equals our contentment. I always wondered, well, if everything's one, then how can it be that like pure evil, like, I've seen on the internet, some awful person cutting off the head of a 4-year-old in, the desert and, all these terrible things. And I said to myself, how can that be part of me? It is only part of me in the realm of relativity and perspective. That because I now have become aware of atrocities, evil, things that I don't want to be a part of, I don't want to surround myself with that energy, it is still relative to me because now it gives me a judgment or a condition, which is, an ego-based thing, but it's my perspective. And the only thing that doesn't have ego-based things in it is the truth. And that's why, to me, that contentment is the enjoyment of the persistent, consistent pursuit of the truth, which now makes everything relative to the truth. And that is far from the truth, right? Someone killing a 4-year-old, or what happened in Florida with the schools,
Parkland.
Right? But that's very relative to me. Because, not because it's close to truth, because it's far from the truth, and I don't want it to be a part of me. Now it becomes very relative to me. And, I had a great story to finish this up. I love this one. We've been looking for a graphic designer. And, my chief in charge, the guy that got the time wrong, he's been looking for a graphic designer, and nobody's really up to snuff. And so we find this guy that's an incredible graphic designer, and he wanted to talk to me. Same kind of deal as you, right? Hey, you're resonating with me. I found my frequency. And so I have this great call, and he says, hey, will you business coach me? A very successful graphic designer. I said, hey, look, I'll business coach you. You do my graphic design work. He's going to rebrand the Clippers. That's how good this guy is. He's big.
Boston Rivers back in
Yeah, right on. So
my high school.
So he says to me, oh, this. I said, okay, I'll tell you what, I'll trade you my business coaching, which is expensive, for your graphic artwork. Oh yeah, I go, meet me tomorrow. Perfect. Well, I then said to the chief in charge, I said, hey man, that could not have gone better, right? It proves the theory of relativity, perspective, and value, bringing up a complete mutually beneficial situation. He said, you know the funny thing about that? As hard as we're looking, he goes, that guy's email has been in my box for 6 days, and I just wasn't aware of it.
Oh, no.
And so I said to him,
Tweeted that?
yeah. So I said to him, you saw what I said, right?
Yeah.
Everything is already in your inbox. You're just not aware.
Gotta find it.
You gotta
Oh my
find
God.
it. That's the universe. That's relativity. That's perception. That's contentment. And so, you know, I know that there's a reason why, you know, we have this. This is why I take the time to do it. I need you to reach out to Colleen and set up an interview.
Can I say one last thing to
Yeah.
you?
Yeah.
I'm a religious man myself, and I was praying, and one of the things I always ask, I don't ask for anything in particular. I just ask for the signs so that I know I'm on the right path. Right after I asked that, it wasn't more than a minute later, you gave me the call. And I know, I mean, people can say what they want, but that happened, and I literally looked up, I said thank you, and I started figuring out what the hell I wanted to say.
Yeah, if I could bless everyone, I would bless them with the expectation of coincidences. Meaning the expectation that everything coincides and that what I desire will come to me rapidly and accurately, which is the definition of awareness. That I just wish that everybody could elevate their vibration to be more aware of that which they want, because it's right there in your inbox. You just got to find it.
Thank you so much, Mr. Meltzer, and I'll be in touch with Colleen as quick as possible. So you have a good rest of your day.
All right.
Take care.
Thank you. Say hi to the governor and thank him for his service.
I will.
Thank you. All right. Take care.